Charlie Kirk's story was not one that many expected to intersect with the world of country music. He was best known as a fiery voice in politics, someone whose commentary stirred headlines and debates across the nation. But what the public rarely saw was the quieter side of Charlie, the side that carried a deep respect for music, particularly country, and the values it represented. From an early age, Charlie admired the authenticity of country songs, the way they told stories of struggle, love, heartbreak, and perseverance. He often spoke privately about how the genre mirrored the life of the everyday American, and though he never claimed to be a musician himself, his presence around the industry slowly grew. He was invited to events, met rising artists backstage, and over time, formed friendships that most fans never knew existed. Those who knew him closely in Nashville said Charlie was a man who could put aside heated debates the moment a guitar was strummed. He loved the rawness of live country performances, and he respected how musicians poured their lives into their craft. Many artists, from newcomers to established legends, said that his passion for their music was genuine. For them, he wasn't just a public figure with strong opinions. He was a supporter, a friend, and someone who reminded them that their work touched people in unexpected corners of society. This unlikely connection created bonds that would later make his death even more shocking to the country community. Stars who had once shared quiet moments, laughter, and even prayers with Charlie would soon be left grieving a man the world never truly understood. News of Charlie Kirk's sudden death spread like wildfire, leaving fans and critics alike stunned. The announcement came without warning, late on a quiet evening, and within minutes, social media platforms erupted in disbelief. For many, it felt surreal. How could someone so outspoken, so constant in the headlines, suddenly be gone? But while the general public processed the shock, there was one community hit especially hard: the country music world. Nashville, usually alive with twangy guitars and the sound of laughter and honky-tonks, fell eerily silent as the news broke. Artists who had crossed paths with Charlie, who had shared stages, green rooms, or heartfelt conversations, suddenly found themselves at a loss for words. The details surrounding his passing only deepened the heartbreak. Whispers of exhaustion, health struggles, and overwhelming stress painted a picture of a man carrying burdens few ever saw. To the outside world, Charlie Kirk had been unshakable, a voice that never seemed to waver. But behind closed doors, friends revealed, he was human. He had fears, struggles, and vulnerabilities that never made headlines. Country musicians in particular understood those hidden battles. Their songs often told stories of pain hidden beneath smiles, of broken hearts concealed behind strong faces. And when they looked at Charlie's story, they saw pieces of their own reflected back. That's why his passing didn't just feel like the loss of a public figure. It felt like losing one of their own. Within hours, tributes began to pour in. Guitar strings were silenced in respect. Concert stages dimmed their lights, and stars who normally stood tall before thousands of fans admitted they couldn't find their voices. The pain was raw, heavy, and undeniable. For them, this wasn't just a headline. It was a goodbye that came far too soon. The ripple effect of Charlie Kirk's death reminded everyone of a truth often forgotten. Even those who seem the strongest can be fighting battles no one sees. And in Nashville, that reminder cut deep. In the days that followed Charlie Kirk's passing, the voices of country musicians became some of the loudest and most heartfelt in remembering him. What surprised many was just how deep his ties to the community ran and how personally these artists took the loss. One of the first to speak was a veteran country star who had known Charlie for years. He shared a story of how Charlie once showed up unannounced at a small benefit concert in Nashville, not to speak, not to be seen, but simply to listen. He sat in the back with no cameras, no fanfare, the musician recalled. When I finished my set, he came up, shook my hand, and told me my song reminded him of his own struggles. That was Charlie. He wasn't here for attention. He was here for the music. Younger artists also came forward, saying Charlie had encouraged them when they doubted themselves. A rising country singer revealed that Charlie once pulled him aside backstage and told him to never give up. reminding him that authenticity mattered more than fame. "That conversation carried me through some of my darkest days," the singer admitted. His voice breaking in a video tribute. Social media turned into a digital memorial as performers from every corner of the country scene posted memories and photos. Guitars rested in empty chairs. Lyrics were scribbled on napkins and shared online, and songs were dedicated mid-performance to honor his name. Even musicians who had disagreed with Charlie's public stances set aside differences to acknowledge the man behind the headlines, the friend who laughed with them, prayed with them, and believed in the power of music. The most touching tributes came during live performances. One night in Nashville, an entire crowd stood in silence as a beloved country duo strummed a slow ballad dedicated to Charlie. The lyrics, filled with images of roads traveled and battles fought, brought fans to tears. For many, it wasn't just about Charlie's death. It was about the reminder of how fragile life is, and how connections, even unlikely ones, can leave lasting marks. Through these tributes, country musicians revealed what the world often missed. Charlie Kirk wasn't just a political figure. To them, he was a listener, a supporter, and a friend. His loss left a hole that no headline could capture. But every song sung in his honor carried a piece of his memory forward. As the initial shock of Charlie Kirk's passing began to settle, the question on everyone's mind was, what legacy did he leave behind? For some, it was his unapologetic voice in politics. For others, it was his ability to spark conversation, to challenge, and to push people out of their comfort zones. But in Nashville, and among the country musicians who mourned him most deeply, his legacy was something far more personal. They remembered him as a man who valued honesty above all else. In a world where image and fame often take center stage, Charlie admired country musicians because they sang the truth, whether that truth was joyful, heartbreaking, or controversial. That honesty resonated with him, and he carried it into his relationships with those artists. He never pretended to be someone he wasn't, and that straightforwardness earned him respect. The tributes and stories that poured in painted a picture of a man who didn't just pass through people's lives, he left fingerprints on their hearts. One musician recalled how Charlie once prayed with him before a show, reminding him that music was more than performance. It was connection. Another remembered the way Charlie would always ask about their families, showing a genuine interest that many in the spotlight often forget to extend. Beyond personal memories, Charlie's death also sparked broader conversations about unseen struggles. His passing became a reminder that even the strongest voices can carry hidden pain. Musicians began speaking more openly about mental health, about the pressures of fame, and about the importance of checking in on one another. In that way, Charlie's departure gave birth to a movement of healing, a legacy that stretched beyond politics and music into the realm of human connection. Fans, too, found themselves reflecting on the man behind the headlines. For years, they had seen him only through television screens, articles, and interviews. But now, hearing the musician's stories, they realized he had been far more complex, someone who valued music, friendship, and authenticity. This revelation softened hearts, and even those who once criticized him admitted that his humanity was undeniable. As the weeks went by, country artists continued to honor him in their own ways. Some dedicated songs, others wrote heartfelt messages, and a few even released new tracks inspired by his memory. These gestures ensured that Charlie Kirk's name would not simply fade into the archives of history, but would instead live on in melodies, lyrics, and the quiet moments of remembrance. In the end, Charlie's story reminded everyone of a powerful truth. Legacy isn't built on fame or controversy alone. It's built on the lives we touch, the kindness we show, and the authenticity we leave behind. At 64, his journey came to an end. But the mark he left on the country music world, and on those who knew him personally, will echo for decades to come. As one country singer said through tears on stage, "Charlie wasn't perfect, none of us are, but he cared." And that's what I'll remember every time I pick up this guitar. And with that, the curtain closed on Charlie Kirk's story, not just as a public figure, but as a man whose unexpected bond with country music revealed the softer, more human side of his legacy.